happened. The red looks really good.
Two sisters, born June 1942 in Lufkin, Texas. Martha was born 10 minutes before Mary. Martha was compassionate, outspoken, and loving. She and Mary helped bring together our congregation. Though they may have disagreed on a few epistemological details, they found common ground. We could find them singing in the choir, opening the doors, and welcoming others at Pathways. On the morning of September 16th, we lost a pillar of our institution, Martha. She was my friend. She was our friend. When people create a sacred trust, a kinship is born. During Wellspring, Soul Matters, small groups from the ad hoc committee, On My Path, through the Come As You Are choir, or Pathways Recovery Group, Martha welcomed us with ties that bind. She was such an important part of our community. Times are difficult. I feel like Martha and Mary held our hands as we walked down a path. Now we, as a congregation, stand at a crossroad. May we reflect together on everything Martha taught us. She is loved, and may her God bless her in the afterlife. Mary, we stand by your side. We love you. Now you are the pillar that will support us, and may we offer you our shoulder. Martha leaves behind 2 sons and 2 daughters and 7 grandchildren and 2 great-granddaughters. She will also forever be missed by her nephew, niece, grandniece, and grandnephew. Her family and friends' lives are forever changed with her loss. As I understand, it has been a very long time since Martha was held by her young lover and first husband. I pray she is in his arms as they now rest together in peace. Martha, you are free.
Thank you, Eric, for those beautiful words. And now we will proceed with the service.
Good morning. I'm Marty Kosmersky, and I'll lead us through the online service today. We recommend that you set your screen to speaker mode for this service. Also, please remain on mute during the service. This is Common Ground Online, Pathways celebration of worship for people of many paths who are gathering virtually to share in the responsible search for meaning and truth. Pathways is a warm and open community where all who come with open minds and kind hearts are welcome, regardless of ability, age, race, gender identity, or sexual orientation. If you are visiting us for the first time today, we welcome you to our virtual service and hope you'll visit us in person when we can be together again. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. To send us a note about your visit or to ask more information about Pathways, email office@pathwaysuu.org. We hope that all who join us today find this a safe and inspiring online place to worship. We Are a Gentle, Angry People, written by Holly Near in the wake of the Harvey Milk assassination in 1977, is a call to action. It demands that we make sure everyone knows who we are and how many we are. We who will not be moved, we who are scared and angry and loving and resisting. And now, with your mics remaining on mute, sing along with Holly Near. Our virtual chalice lighting is Let Astonishment Be Possible, written by Reverend Gretchen Haley. While remaining on mute, please read these words with me. Whatever you have come in anticipating, whatever you expect or worry for our world, for the future, for our lives, let it go. Make space in your heart to be surprised. Make room in your soul for a new story to take shape. Let astonishment be possible at this life that remains a miracle. Imagine here the bursting of joy, relentless and resilient. Coming in waves, washing over us with music and story, silence, and still this dreaming together. Being hope for each other and courage to believe in this new day dawning for us all. Come, let us worship together. And now let's read together our Unitarian Universalist sacred promises. Love is the doctrine of Pathways Church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
This is Ted Kazmersky. Our call to worship today is a quote from Christopher Rice, New York Times bestselling author of Bone Music, Blood Echo, The Snow Garden, and more. He said, "When I look back on my own coming out, I wish less of it had been centered around nightlife and bars. But it was a different time then. People would have laughed you out of the room if you'd suggested forming an LGBT alliance in a high school. And almost none of us felt safe taking someone with the same gender identity to prom. We went where we felt safe, and our options were few. And this was 1996, not 1956. To watch pride go from something that closed down some streets in major cities, inspiring sneering disdain and eye rolls from everyday homophobes, to a national celebration trumpeted by everything from airlines to television networks, is dizzying and inspiring. I'm glad younger LGBT people have more social options than we did back then, even as the fight continues against those who wish to use junk science and twist religion to advance the false argument that we are fundamentally disordered."
Today's reading are quotes from the leaders of the Stonewall riots. Marsha P. Johnson said, "History isn't something you look back at and say it was inevitable. It happens because people make decisions that are sometimes very impulsive and of the moment, but those moments are cumulative realities." And Sylvia Rivera said, "I was a radical, a revolutionist. I am still a revolutionist. I am glad I was in the Stonewall riot. I remember when someone threw a Molotov cocktail and I thought, my God, the revolution is here. The revolution is finally here." Today's speaker, Joel Brotzman-Gonzales, has been a spiritual leader in the LGBTQ plus community of the Rio Grande Valley of Texas for over 20 years. As a singer, songwriter, he often uses music as a vehicle for outreach and activism. He also enjoys writing, acting, directing, and photography. Joel currently lives in Harlingen with his husband Christopher and their 4 fur children. And now let's welcome Joel as he brings the possibilities of pride to common ground.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you at Pathways Church, and I always count it a joy to be in fellowship with my UU siblings. And speaking of those 4 fur children, you'll probably hear them in the background this morning. While I attend Embrace United Church of Christ in Richland Hills, virtually of course, and I'm a member there, I'm also part of the local UU community here in the Rio Grande Valley. For several years, I've been a part of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Hidalgo County in the McAllen, Texas area. I speak and share my music there on occasion, and am usually involved in the many earth-based religious celebrations that we hold there on our beautiful grounds. This coming Tuesday, I'll be part of our Mabon or autumnal equinox celebration. If you are ever down this way, come and see. We have a beautiful labyrinth, and the whole property is surrounded by native plants and trees. Not only is it a sanctuary for us, but for nature as well. When I was approached about sharing today with Pathways, I fell in love with your theme for this month, embracing possibilities. And I began to think about my own story of embracing possibilities throughout my life, especially as a member of the LGBTQ plus community. and I began to think about how we in the community embrace possibilities of pride. Now, I know that June is usually considered Pride Month as we celebrate the Stonewall riots, and it's September now. Most of us have taken down our rainbow flags and put away our pins and decor and our buttons and banners, stored them away for next year. But then again, since we live in Texas, otherwise known as the face of the sun, you'll notice that many of the large pride celebrations tend to come later in the year here, when it's a few degrees cooler. For instance, North Texas Pride, up there where you all are, is happening next weekend. South Padre Island, which is a 45-minute drive from where I live, has a Pride celebration in October, which is fitting really since October 11th is National Coming Out Day. And honestly, celebrating Pride, if you choose to celebrate, shouldn't be limited to just 1 month out of the year. But as I was reflecting on Pride, for most of us, having Pride is a journey that has been fraught with a mix of heartache, tears, danger, and joy. Sometimes just the possibility of pride has been hampered by society, religious norms that we're born into, and most often, unaccepting family. This is especially true when you are a young person just coming out. The first song of mine that I'm going to share with you was written one night as I witnessed the bullying of a close friend on social media about her child who had just come out as transgendered. I was saddened as I thought about how that child would feel if they saw the horrible things that were being said about them and their family. And these words that I wrote began to flow along with my tears. I wrote this song for Braxton and for anyone else who simply wants to be exactly who they were made to be, without hindrance. And this song is entitled Little Creature of the Night.
Little creature of the night, I wonder if you know how much I'd like to join your midnight flight. Darting to and fro above, against the backdrop of that starry sky that I dearly love. When the moon begins to rise and you appear before my very eyes, I am always mesmerized, little creature of the night. Little creature of the night, I wonder if you ever feel the way that I feel sometimes. People stare at me in fright, make me want to hide and never come out into the light. How I wish they'd realize you and I are just misunderstood. I would change it if I could, little creature of the night. Little creature of the night, wish I may, I wish I might have this wish I wish tonight. I just want to live my life, want to be the person that I know that I am inside. Can you make my dreams come true? Or if that's something you just can't do, can I fly away with you, little creature of the night?
I'm happy to say Braxton is now almost 20 and doing well, despite all of the trouble and the bullying that he went through. So I'm very glad that he has overcome so much. Whenever I speak about the subject of pride, and you'll remember that we read quotes from the Stonewall riots, I'm always compelled to remind us all that the Possibilities of Pride was born out of a riot at the Stonewall Inn in New York City, when our trans icons like Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson said enough was enough and fought back against the police after being targeted year after year, night after night in their safe spaces. We must never allow their stories to become a footnote lost in the festivities. It's only because of their courage and tenacity that we are where we are today, and I give thanks for them today. But I also think that it's important that we recognize that celebrating pride isn't comfortable for everyone. I imagine that for many older LGBTQ+ folks, the ease in which pride is celebrated today brings a mix of emotions, especially when in the midst of the party, it can feel as if the battles to get where we are today seem minimized or even forgotten. Even for a middle-aged gay man like myself, it can feel that way. Sometimes it's not easy to celebrate pride for those who identify as transgender or non-binary, when there's still so much hatred and discrimination, misinformation, attacks from all sides, sometimes even from within our own community. When it seems like at every turn, your very existence and your right to present as your authentic self, or simply to use a restroom that you're comfortable with, is being challenged in court, can be difficult to celebrate. For an LGBTQ+ artist struggling to make ends meet by selling their art, watching big corporations make millions on pride merchandise by taking our money, which we readily give them, with their left hand while donating to politicians who'd rather us die with their right hand doesn't feel all that empowering. And lest we forget, those of us who came from conservative religious backgrounds don't always find it easy to celebrate Pride, especially when the word shame was used to describe us from the pulpits of fundamentalist churches we were raised in. What will people think? I can remember my own mother asking. And speaking of religion, when the head of your church dangles carrots of perceived acceptance, only to double down on age-old rhetoric and leaves you outside the communion rail again and again and again, it can be hard to celebrate. And this might sound a little unpopular, but it's something I feel strongly about. I've learned that it's far more helpful for those of us in progressive spiritual communities to sometimes just offer love and support to those within institutions such as those, rather than just expecting them to jump ship and join our churches. We have to realize that for the vast majority of people in those situations, leaving isn't a simple option. Sometimes this is their familial identity. Sometimes it's their national identity. I think that those of us who came from Protestant backgrounds are so used to starting new denominations and leaving one church for another when we have any argument over any little whipstitch of a theological difference that we've lost sight of the fact that for our Catholic, Orthodox siblings, quitting and simply strolling across the street to another church next Sunday is a completely foreign concept to them. And then, for those of us that have lost so many friends to HIV/AIDS, sometimes it's not easy to celebrate Pride. And the point is, Pride doesn't always come easy for everyone. But that's okay. We should give grace to those who have not come to a place of celebration yet, for whatever reason. As for myself, I've chosen to celebrate Pride. My own journey began in 1998 when I knew I could no longer be silent about who I was any longer after the death of Matthew Shepard. For those of you who might not be familiar with Matthew Shepard's story, he was an openly gay young man in Wyoming who was lured out to the middle of nowhere by two men pretending to be his friends, and they brutally beat him to death, strung him up on a barbed wire fence, simply because he was gay. The year this happened, I had been dealing with an extremely difficult coming out process that had begun on Memorial Day, which had almost caused me to lose my family. I had come to a place of no longer speaking to my parents because it had become too painful and too ugly. To give you some context, I was raised in the Pentecostal Holiness Church. My parents were active ministers in this denomination throughout my childhood, so you can imagine that having a gay child was both unfathomable and unacceptable. I had known that I was gay for a long time, but I had been able to keep the truth from them up until that year. I won't go into all the details of my coming out story, but as you can imagine, it wasn't pretty. My experience coming out in a right-wing fundamentalist family was ugly and sadly not unique. Honestly, as bad as it was probably far less severe than others. I didn't get beaten up. I wasn't disowned. Sadly, many in right-wing evangelical homes do get thrown out of their homes and are never spoken to again, wind up living out on the streets. But during that terrible summer, I was struggling with my way forward. Because of the way my family reacted, I felt like I was in a position where I had to choose between being my authentic self and having a relationship with them. And after many heated exchanges, it finally broke down to the point to where we had to choose silence in order to maintain any kind of a relationship. And looking back now, that may have not been the best answer, but that's all that could work for us at that time. But after Matthew Shepard's death that October, I knew regardless of whether or not I lost my family, I had to be out, open, and active and fight for my community. So I made the choice then to live as an out and proud gay man. And I'm not going to tell you it was easy, because it certainly wasn't. There was plenty of personal pain and heartbreak that went along with being an out gay man in the Rio Grande Valley in the late 90s and early 2000s. But I will also tell you this: I don't regret for one moment deciding to be who I was without apology. Because I made that choice, I've had the opportunity to help others learn to love themselves for who they are. Working over the years, especially in LGBTQ plus churches, and as a community spiritual leader in other open and affirming spiritual settings, I have had the privilege to tell queer folks just like myself that the idea that the divine hates them is categorically false. I've been Mama Joel to queer kids whose parents rejected them and found places for them to stay when they got thrown out. I've held them while they cried. I've had the opportunity to talk people like me out of ending their own lives. And as difficult as my own story is, it's given me the perspective that I needed to help others like myself open themselves up to the possibility of living a life of pride. And I wouldn't trade it. I really wouldn't. A recurring theme that we seem to hear during Pride from straight people is, why do you need to celebrate Pride? There is a quote on my wall calendar this month, interestingly enough, from the Trevor Project that sums it up perfectly. It says, "Gay pride was not born of a need to celebrate being gay, but our right to exist without persecution." So instead of wondering why there isn't a straight pride movement, be thankful you don't need one. And this echoes my own personal answer to this question. I celebrate Pride because I survived. I survived. I'm still here. I choose to celebrate Pride to honor those who gave so much to get us where we are today, who gave us these possibilities of pride. And over the years, being who I am openly and unapologetically has been interesting, to say the least. It's been heartbreaking, and it's been a joy. The best thing has been marrying the love of my life, Christopher, watching my parents evolve into a place of at least tolerance, which is far more than I ever expected. I never really entertained the thought that we could actually show up at their house for Christmas, but we do every year, and they welcome us with open arms. Sometimes arm's length, but open arms. But my message to people like myself is to choose relationship when you can. Choose relationship. And choose pride when you can. One afternoon, as I was reflecting on Pride celebrations, I was thinking about all of the pioneers of the LGBTQ plus movement, both well-known and people that I have known over the years personally. And I got this picture in my mind of an older gentleman watching a pride parade from his window. And I wrote this song that I'll be sharing next, thinking about what his perspective might be. It's entitled Circle of Pride.
as long as I have seen the things that I have seen. You might think I'd wish I was different, but if I was, I wouldn't be me. Don't regret this road I have traveled, from Stonewall down to San Francisco Bay. Won't pretend this life has been easy, that I couldn't live it any other way. This circle of pride that surrounds me has given me the strength to be free. I fly this rainbow flag for all the world to see. These colors are my legacy. I have lost my friends and lovers, held them in my arms and watched them die. They did not deserve the end they came to. We were all too young to say goodbye. I cannot go back and change the past, take away the harm that was done. I can only live in this moment, celebrate the battles we have won. This circle of pride that surrounds me has given me the strength to be free. I fly this rainbow flag for all the world to see. These colors are my legacy. These colors are my legacy. The time has come for me to leave. Hope that you'll remember me and all the ones who've come before you, who've helped to make the changes that you see. This circle of pride that surrounds you has given you the strength to be free. Fly this rainbow flag words are my legacy.
I'd like to thank you all for listening to my story this morning. My wish is for us all, whether we be part of the LGBTQ plus community or not, is to come together and celebrate the possibilities of pride for all of us, together as one, unified, not divided, because we are all part of this one human family. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. If you have time, stick around after the service when we'll have discussion time with Joel. We hope that each of you on your individual path through joys and questions of life found some common ground with your virtual travelers today. Every Sunday is new and different at Pathways. We hope you will join us for Common Ground Weekly. Our closing song today, Won't Back Down by Tom Petty, has a message of defiance against unnamed forces of difficulty and possibly oppression. Petty said that he felt some initial hesitation about releasing the song, given its clear and unabashed message. What message does it leave with you? While remaining mute, please sing along and enjoy.
Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down. No, I'll stand my ground. Won't be turned around. And I'll keep this world from dragging me down. Gonna stand my ground. And I won't back down. I won't back. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. I won't back. Hey, I stand my ground, and I won't back down. Well, I know what's right. I got just one life in a world that keeps on pushing me around. Gonna stand my ground, and I won't back down. I won't back. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. I won't back. Hey, I stand my ground, and I won't back down. I won't back. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Please read along at home this chalice extinguishing reading by Catherine Rodriguez. Embrace the good, embrace the bad, embrace each moment that you've had. Embrace the dark, embrace the light, embrace the struggle, don't give up the fight. Embrace the right, embrace the wrong, embrace life in every aspect, love yourself and be strong. Our benediction was written by Rabbi Heather Miller. This piece of liturgy was originally written for the interfaith prayer service held prior to a Los Angeles Pride Parade. The prayer memorializes those who have employed the various ways individuals can and have made a difference in promoting justice for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. Ted and I will read it together. We pause now for moments of memory for those who came before us.
The ones who personally stood up and were counted, and who thus made a difference for all of us today.
We remember you.
Whether by combating an ugly word against another, or through the personal act of coming out.
Whether by challenging the system or by changing it from within.
Whether by actively sharing your ideas with broad audiences, or by quietly affecting individuals one at a time.
Whether by looking outward to help others understand us, or by looking within to help make ours a better community.
Through all of those courageous actions and so many more every time.
You brought us forward.
Even under the pressures of physical pain and torture, of economic devastation or political failure, of social estrangement or worse.
You braved it all.
Each of you adding in your essence, your talented endeavors and elegant movements.
Your clever words and dignified existence.
Your dedicated heart and focused mind.
Your infectious smile, your quirky ways.
In all, your persevering spirit brought others forward behind you and moved us all a little closer to a world that more fully celebrates love.
Your contributions are remembered. You are remembered.
And your memory is a blessing.
Go in peace.
I want to thank Joel. He did an excellent job and he was great to work with. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me today. I really enjoyed being a part of this today. Thank you.